salad niçoise?
Yes, yeah.
And, you know, the debate on this salad is endless because, you know, supposedly first introduced in Paris at Le Cordon Bleu by Julia Child, with the anchovies, and she did stuff too that people didn't agree with. And there's all kinds of versions. Supposedly back then too was flake tuna, was not fresh seared tuna, wasn't sesame crusted tuna. Again, things change. People take, and that's why I think to some degree, it's, to me, it's just how you work. Creating food and using a foundation is a great thing. For lunch today, chef, the potato risotto. But he's, you know, chef said, the style of risotto. Is it really risotto? No, but it is a style. The cooking of the potatoes, extracting the starch into the cream and the stock, and it's a procedure. You know, barbecue's a procedure. They're not recipes, they're procedures. And you can do things in the style of. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. That's taking something you learned and saying, wow, how can I make it better or do the next thing? So, yeah, this is a very basic salad. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, that's salad niçoise. Believe it or not, that's a terrine, seared tuna. You have the potatoes, you have the greens. Inside that terrine, the tuna, there's chopped egg, there's the green beans, some garlic, there's olives. An incredible looking dish. Very cool. But you can't create that dish without grasping its history, without understanding the flavors, how it was made, some history behind it, maybe a couple of different versions. It's all that knowledge and that foundation that then allows you to turn around and say, well, here's what I can do. I can press the tuna, I can get a terrine mold, I can put everything in, I can make that dressing, put a little bit of gelatin in it, put the two tuna slabs together, press it overnight, put it in a cryovac, whatever the case is, create something very modern, very cool, and yet based on the flavors, based on, you know, what's really happening. Chicken Marengo, I showed you that earlier, right? Show it again. That's the original classical Marengo. Fried egg, chicken, and tomato, crawfish. That's a modern version. The egg is sous vide, fresh truffle. The chicken is actually a terrine. The white meat's on the bottom, dark meat's on top. It's pressed, it's cooked, it's still served hot. It still has crawfish. You have crawfish foam coming out of the foam gun. Little edible flour, greens. Same dish. Two way different products. What I like about the second one is I get $10 more. So maybe even 20. It looks really good. But understanding that first dish, because how do you extract the flavors? How do you make a crawfish foam if you don't know how to make a good stock and sauce from crawfish? How do you make the great terrine and incorporate those flavors if you don't understand how to sear chicken, cook chicken, get the flavors extracted, get the tomatoes and garlic in there, and somehow make that all come together in a modern way. It still goes back to, even if you never do this dish here, you have to understand that dish. But cooking that dish, going through the motions, making it happen, teach you what you can then do from it. And that's really what food has evolved to today. There is nobody making magic out there. There is, and the ones that do it piss poor, there's a bunch that do it piss poor. There's some bad food out there, some bad chefs out there. I don't care if they get rid of it, I don't care if they're magazine, I don't care if they're building a 4-foot plate with burning friggin' rosemary come to the dining room. That's stupid. Who the hell burns rosemary? You can smoke something else. You can smoke rosemary? I don't think the effect's the same. In Michigan, rosemary's not legal, the other is. Go figure.
That's for black.
So it's really understanding so you can make sense, because this dish makes sense. Okay, that dish can taste good. That dish looks good. It would be served in the tasting menu. It's a Charlie Trotter kind of dish, but it's understanding that first dish. And the good chefs that accomplish that, whether it's pastry, cuisine, they have an understanding. Even great pastry chefs today understand classical pastry disciplines. When's the last time anybody's here at poached eggs, poached egg whites, sauce on glaze? What's that called, chef?
Sorry?
What's that dish called?
Floating Island?
Ah, yeah. Very good. He told me he was good. Easy. But, yeah, or floating island. But basically it's a dish where you poach some meringue in sauce after. Simple. Man, it's delicious. But how can you take that and make it something? If you know how to make the original version, you can still do it. You can bake a meringue. Okay? You can make a quenelle and bake it. You can still poach a quenelle. So now on the plate you have the crisp, you have the original. You still do that sauce on glaze. Perhaps you throw some basil. Perhaps you take the raspberry dehydrated, you have a raspberry caramel. So now you've taken something very classic, very simple, made it into something that's a whole other level. But it's that understanding of that first procedure. What made the dish, the poaching, the sweetness going into that milk, the vanilla pod, all that stuff. And then that fruit which created the acid and just gave some balance from the sweetness of the sauce. That soft and fluffiness of the meringue. So you give it texture by drying out the meringue. You add different things to it. But it still comes back to understanding those fundamentals. Because why do we do things? Why do you press watermelon? Why would you put watermelon in a cryovac package? Why would you put any fruit in a cryovac and press it? In some cases, the fruit's bad. The fruit's bad. But that's where technology comes in, and you're knowing what to do. If you take melon off season, that's not very good. Make a great simple syrup. So if it's the middle of fall, I make a simple syrup with some cinnamon sticks, star anise, boil it, reduce it, put that in the bag, compress that fruit for 30 minutes. I've now infused that melon. I've now added flavor to something that nature, unfortunately, because of how we are today, we get everything all kinds of gear, we get it whether it's good, bad, But as a chef and a cook, your responsibility is still to make your food taste great for your customers. That's where all that stuff can come in handy, knowing how to do it. Peaches, incredible. Sous vide peaches, vanilla bean in there, a cinnamon stick, put them in the bag, poach them in a combi steamer. Incredible. So all that stuff, right, enhances flavor. But if you know how to use it, if you know how food works, if you know the science of it, what's going to make something better? Lobster is probably one of the toughest dishes to cook. Lobster that melts in your mouth, that you cut, it's like butter. Circulators, unbelievable. Now you can still do without all that stuff. It's just your art of cookery, it's nailing it down. When you got a banquet for 100 people, you got lobster on the menu. You can cryovac that lobster and knock it down to 8 minutes per tail. And every cryovac bag is knobs of butter, thyme, some flavorings you have. Open that up, take it out of that bag, slice it for service, a la menu, even in banquets. You give 100 people an incredible meal. Thanks to some technology, or thanks to your knowledge. That's from the studying, that's from the reading, that's from understanding science, how things work. Lobster Americana is an incredible dish. But when you read Escoffier's version, maybe back in those days it worked. Maybe the Mediterranean lobsters, whatever he did it with, were different. But I know if I take Maine lobster today and follow that recipe, that lobster's going to be like, what? I can make that sauce from start to finish, classic. Pulverize those shells, get that brandy, do everything that I'm supposed to do, make an incredible sauce, except take that meat, cryovac it, cook it in a circulator, just poach it lightly, roast it lightly, whatever I'm going to do, get that lobster so it's incredibly tender, and then pour that sauce over. I still have a classical dish. I have an incredible sauce, but I've now taken today's product, used it in today's circumstance to give a result. And Escoffier said, as old as that book is, as old as he was, food will progress, cuisine will progress based on customers' needs and the changes of our environments. So back then, he knew, when you look at what's going on today, nutrition, gluten, vegetarian, all that stuff that's happening drives somewhat our business. Why does the Ritz-Carlton, why does Charlie Trotter feature a vegetarian tasting menu? There's vegetarians out there. There's a need. And people who are vegetarians want to eat like everybody else. They just don't want the friggin' green bean slapped on the plate with a scoop of now. Vegetarian, screw that. Yep, here you go. Goodbye. That's what a lot of places do. You go to weddings, you go to banquets, you're a vegetarian. Good luck to you. Because you just get vegetables off the dish, and half of them, cook that chicken stock. Send it out to them. Their chefs are laughing their butts off.